Hello YouTube, my name is Daryl Larry, and I would like to talk about the famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." The quote itself puts so much emphasis on examining one's life that it states an unexamined life is not even worthy of living. So why would such a quote put so much emphasis on examining one's life? My guess is that if we as individuals fail to examine our own behaviors and how those behaviors affected others, then we are most likely guilty or of bringing some degree of destruction upon our world. In other words, a reckless life void of insight, reflection, empathy, and foresight is simply a destructive life. I posit that a good person is one whose existence and actions benefit the lives of others, and that purpose in and of itself is similar to improve the quality of life for others. For to have purpose, it is required that we benefit more than our own life, otherwise we are simply doing well for ourselves. A major cause of concern is the influence we have on others, directly and indirectly. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. I know, for example, many people have become addicted to various drugs like cigarettes or alcohol because they were introduced to those drugs by others. I can't help but to think that influencing a person to try smoking a cigarette, for example, is a potentially very destructive to the life of another person, for they have introduced the possibility that that person will enjoy the experience, repeat the enjoyable experience, and eventually become addicted, and worse, potentially face a lifetime of chronic health problems leading to their death. What about those who create YouTube videos displaying potentially harmful behaviors to a potentially suggestive audience? Videos that glorify teenage drug use or teenage drinking or bullying or daring others to do potentially dangerous actions. What are the true moral and ethical implications to such influence? What is the potential harm to society as a whole? I believe that our behaviors as individuals creates a model to others of what we deem as appropriate behavior, and some people will look to others as an example of how to operate within our society. Does our influence on others cause more damage than all of the good that we have done? I generally believe that good people tend to be more selfless and bad people tend to be more selfish. Of course, being selfish is the act of thinking only of oneself and not thinking how their actions affect others. Am I a good person? This is a question that I personally struggle with. Am I unaware of some harmful ideology that I am spreading throughout society? Am I participating in some seemingly harmless behavior that is actually contributing to a much bigger problem in society? I think everyone needs to ask themselves these questions. I think it is critical that we all seek and listen to the criticism of others. For others may see negative things within our behaviors and thinking that we as individuals may be blind to. But I also think people ought to be constructively criticize others in objectivity. That is, to reinforce their positive behaviors as well as address their behaviors of concern, and to do so out of care and concern for the individual. Purely negative criticism is criticism against another person with no regard to their value as a person, void of care or concern for that person. Such negative criticism seems to yield a more broken person over time. If a person commits suicide because they were tormented by bullies throughout their school, then is everyone who participated in the bullying guilty of their death? How about those who did nothing to stop the bullying? I think every person ought to examine every belief they have and question, why do I believe what I believe? And even question, is my belief potentially harmful? I think sometimes people do bad things to others because they simply do not know any better, or perhaps because they are simply incapable of knowing any better, or they have never been challenged by the right question. I think everyone ought to ask themselves at least once in their lifetime, am I a good person? And examine such a question. How do I know I am a good person? And what is my evidence? Is the evidence objective? What is the measure of the evidence? I'll explore this topic more in depth in later episodes. As to myself, I honestly do not know if I'm a good person, but I would hope that I have had a good net effect upon this world. Thank you. I'm Daryl Leary.